Yeah.
I do have it.
Maybe so.
I'm not gonna vote.
Oh my gosh. I got a new
We're live.
I'm just gonna.
And then you said people
Yeah.
Okay, it is 6 o'clock, so I'll call this Wednesday, February 4th, 2026 Board of Trustees study session to order and have the clerk call the roll.
President Brown.
Here.
Trustees Donaldson.
Here.
Dykstra. Here. Camphor.
Here.
Mangan.
Here.
Shumquillo. Fabric.
Here.
Alrighty, we'll move on to public comment. Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Last call for public comment. Seeing none, I'll close public comment, and first item up is a public hearing for fiscal year 2026 to 2027 tentative annual budget. The purpose of this public hearing is to receive public comment on the village's annual budget for fiscal year 2026-2027. The village made the tentative budget available to the public on December 31st, 2025. Notice of this hearing was published in the News Gazette on February 24th, 2026. Witnesses will not be sworn, and a verbatim transcript will not be prepared. If anybody wishes to speak, please come to the microphone, state your name, quote your first and last name for the record, and share your comments. Is there any public comment on the public hearing?
Correction on the publication is dated 24th, not February.
Oh, okay, correction on the, did I say February?
Yeah.
Okay, apologize, the publication was on January 24th, 2026. So I will open it up for any public comment. Okay, seeing no public comment, do we have any written comments so far?
Nope, did I
No
see
written
any?
comment? Okay, seeing no public comment, I will hereby declare the public hearing closed. Okay, we will go on to discussion items. We'll start with the staff reports, monthly financial reports. I guess I'll turn that over to.
The treasurer's report's probably mine, yeah. So as noted in your packet, the treasurer report's available. Nothing remarkable. I will do my best to answer any questions you may have regarding that, though.
Are there any questions about the monthly financial report? Okay, seeing no questions, we'll move on to a presentation from the Advocates for Aging. I don't know how you have that. I'll turn that over to you to
I
do
don't.
introductions and.
I don't know. The clerk, do we have that available?
Yes.
I assume she would.
I'm gonna go first. Do I, where do I do that? Or over here? Here.
Yep, right there.
People can hear it, you know. Okay. With the microphone.
Might be off.
Or hang on just a second, and we'll pull up a presentation.
Just use the microphone for those who are watching also.
Yeah, I should do what? I should turn it on? Oh, it's on.
Should be.
Okay.
TV's working.
Okay, great. So should I just give a little thing when you, okay.
Wendy will help you. whenever you
Thank you.
want her to
Thank
change
you,
the.
Wendy. Hi, my name's Lori Reynolds. I'm a member of the steering committee of the Advocates for Aging Care. Thank you very much for taking time. I know you have a lot of other things to deal with, and this is not something that's specifically in your bailiwick, but this is definitely an issue that affects each and every one of us in Champaign County. And we're going to give you a little introduction to what we've been doing for the last 2.5 years, where we are now, and the exciting news we have about where we hope to go very soon in the future. So, as it says, we are the Advocates for Aging Care, and we were organized to deal with a very salient and critical problem in Champaign County, which, if you've had a loved one who has needed skilled nursing care, you know what I'm talking about. I don't need to explain it to you. We have lost a huge number of nursing home beds in the county in the last couple of years, 450 beds lost, which creates a tremendous deficit, and which means that the majority of our residents who need skilled care have to leave the county. That's just for a county, Champaign County, medical center, high-tech, university, wealthy community. Really? This is the problem that we've come together to try to solve. So, before we go into all of the minutiae of what we are doing, I wanted to start with a couple of definitions. I hope this isn't an insulting primer for you, but we have a table at the farmer's market every Saturday during the summer, and we always get this question when we start to describe the critical crisis that we have and how we don't have all these beds, and then someone says, well, there's one of these facilities on every corner. Well, I think what they're talking about is an assisted living facility. It is true that Champaign County has a lot of assisted living facilities. That's not what we're talking about. An assisted living facility, as the definition up there is pretty basic, explains it's a residential facility. It may look just like a traditional nursing home, long corridors, rooms on both sides. People live there. There are some caregivers who give medicines and who provide meals and things like that. But this is a facility that is not equipped or licensed to provide what we would call skilled nursing care. Meals are given, they get assistance with their activities of daily living, but this is basically a private pay. If you have $10,000 or $15,000 a month, you won't have any problem finding a place in Champaign County to go. But that's not what we're talking about, because the people in those facilities do not need skilled care. What we are talking about is the next category, skilled nursing beds. This is also a residential facility, and it may look very similar to some of the assisted living facilities that you see in our town, but it has a much higher level of licensing regulation and also of level of professional care that is provided. Skilled nursing facilities provide two main kinds of care. One is we call generally rehab. If a person of any age is in the hospital, either with an acute illness or surgery, and is ready to be discharged from the hospital but can't quite yet go home, rehab at a skilled nursing facility is where they will go. That part of what a skilled nursing facility does is covered by a lot of private insurance. It's covered by Medicare, and so it does provide income to the long-term care facility. Then the other group that is in a skilled nursing facility are those who are going to be there probably for the rest of their life. They need long-term care. They're not getting better. They are living their lives in the best possible situation they can, but they need a lot of medical assistance. That long-term nursing care is not covered by either by Medicare or by most private insurances. Medicaid, for those with low incomes, does provide some reimbursement. In our state, it doesn't provide very much, but that is a source of some income. But for the most part, for most people in there who are not on Medicaid, it means out-of-pocket or long-term care coverage. So here we were. There was sort of two groups of people that came together to form the Advocates for Aging Care. One was, the group that I came from was a support group for women with loved ones with dementia who were seeing the writing on the wall and realizing, ooh, and hearing about the problems that many of our fellow support group members had. And then there was this group of highly trained healthcare executives and professionals who had spent their lives in the weeds of this stuff, but working in nonprofits throughout the community, and we came together and formed this group of like 16 or 20 of us who are really determined and ready to go and solve this problem. So let's go, yeah, we can go to the needs assessment. Our first step, that's the next page, yeah, thank you. Our first step was to go to the county, which in some part, is responsible for this problem, since the closure of the Champaign County Nursing Home produced a tremendous part of the deficit that we have. We went to the county as a bunch of citizens and asked for their support in conducting a public survey of our community, just to make sure that we were right in our knee-jerk feeling that we really have a problem. Public Health did a great job. They put together a survey. I don't know if maybe some of you answered it. We got a lot of responses. I believe we got like 800 or 900 responses. And we saw, yes, our community agrees with us that this is a problem. Of the respondents who had some experience with skilled nursing in our community, 70% of them indicated that they had a real problem in finding care, either for themselves or for their loved one. So we knew we had a problem. We were, so what's the next step to get this thing going? Well, that's the market survey. I'm not a business person, but the business people in our group told us that that's sort of the next step that you always have to do before you can attract someone to come to town. We went back to the county. This time the mental health board, or the county board of public health, gave us some money to help fund this market survey. And once again, we got another affirmation that yes, indeed, we have a problem. We have a shortage of beds. We have a 40% deficit. But now we can go to an operator with that actual, okay, someone other than just a bunch of people in the community have done a study. They've looked at the demographics, and they've produced this study that establishes that yes, we have a big need and we need to work with it. They also worked on the financials and what you would tell a prospective operator about why they should come to town. So after the market survey, let's see, where are we? Yeah, I'm just going to end up by telling you, if you haven't guessed already, our mission is singularly focused on bringing to our community a high quality, innovative nursing home that will provide care to everyone. We're not looking for a rich people or a poor people facility. We're looking for a facility that will take Medicaid. We're looking for a facility that can take all of our residents who need it, so they don't have to go out of town. We think it's something that our community deserves and we ought to provide for ourselves. And we are looking for a lot of support. We're not here to ask you for any money. We are here to ask you for support. We're trying to get the word spread. So just to conclude, I'll just show you the names of, that's us. We were at our public health at the county board. The last slide that I'm going to talk about is just a list of our steering committee members. If you know any of us, reach out to us, or if you don't know any of us, reach out to us. We are delighted to come and present to any group of any size and to share our passion for this issue with you, to hear your stories. I can't tell you the number of elected officials that I have spoken with privately who will just tell me about the horrible times that they and their families have had. This is a real problem that, just as Ms. Dykstra just said before the meeting, this is not a niche problem. This is a problem that affects all of us. We all have parents. We're all getting older. We're all going to be old someday. And I'm here to just stress for you, to tell you that we're here, and if you want to help us in any way, feel free to contact us, and we'd be delighted to talk more with you. So I think, Nancy, you're going next.
Yeah, go ahead. That's the next slide.
That'll be the next
That's the
slide,
next
yeah.
slide.
Yeah.
Okay, Ryan, let's turn to kind of question. There you go.
All right. Alrighty then.
My name is Nancy Yeagle, also on the Advocates for Aging Care Steering Committee. A former occupational therapist, so healthcare was my jam, and still is. So you talked about what we're trying to accomplish already. Did you do that slide?
No, she didn't.
Okay, well then I'll further elucidate that. So what we're striving to accomplish is, obviously we want to get this skilled nursing facility built. And we want more of it than your traditional old-style nursing home. As Lori said, the long hallways, rooms on either side, desk in the center, not very much person-centered care. The CNAs have 12 or more, patients to look after, and it's overwhelming, and it smells. We don't want that. We are looking at a new model. It's called the greenhouse model, and Kathy will talk a little more extensively about that, but it's smaller cottages with only about 10 to 12 people in each, and a central area where they can come together and eat, fix their meals, etc. So we're also, can you go back one more, Wendy? I'm sorry. We're also really looking at being collaborative and partnering with other groups in the community. This issue affects way more than just the patients. It's affecting our hospitals because patients can't be dismissed in a timely way, discharged because they can't find a place to go that the patient can accept. So we are working with our local hospitals and providers. We're working with the university to make sure that we can bring research about the efficacy of our methods, our design, our technology. Everything should be really as up to date as we possibly can make it by working with all the groups in the university. And we want this to be a model for the whole state. So if we can bring this here, this will be the first one in Illinois. And we're hoping that that will bring us a lot of growth of a better quality of care. All right, I'm ready now. All right, so as Lori said, we've had these studies done, working with our community partners, Public Health, and the County Board. We have also created a community collaborative, and the next slide will show you all the different groups that we've worked with and talked to try to make this a partnership. We completed the studies, and so these are the groups that we've talked to and met with on a consistent basis over the last few years, 2.5. You can see it's the care providers, Community Foundation has been very helpful. And also, as I said, the U of I is very involved. They've committed to helping us with research once we get established and to helping us with design and technology. So we're happy about that. And here's a picture of what the greenhouse looks like, and you can see right away it looks a lot more like a home than an institution. It involves a totally different type of clinical care where the CNAs have very much fewer patients that they're responsible for. Kathy will talk a little bit more about that as well. Another big thing that we accomplished was working with Senator Faraci to get a major grant from the state to help us with land acquisition and getting the building built. So we have $500,000 in grant funds to get it started. So, and then Senator Faraci and Chapin Rose are also helping with a leadership council at the legislative level to keep things moving. Here we are at the press conference where Senator Faraci introduced the grant, and we have a quote from him. He's been extremely helpful and supportive. So, next slide. Okay. These are the legislators who were at the conference when we announced the grant, and you can see we have both Democrats and Republicans represented, as well as university officials and Dr. Leonard from Carl. He's very concerned about the problem. It very much affects their operations. All right, and I think we're ready for Kathy. Yeah.
Okay, I'm Kathy Emanuel. I'm also on the steering committee, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're working on now. So as they talked about, we've been working on this for the last 2.5 years, and I just want to stress how significant the need is. We are the most underserved county in all of Illinois, by far. The state overall has an excess of beds. Most of the rest of the counties have an excess of beds, but in Champaign County, we only need 700 beds, and we only have about 400 of them. So it's not like we're short a little bit. And that's why, as Nancy said, when we went and talked with Dr. Leonard and I worked at Carl for many years, and he said, we got to have a solution to this. We've got patients who are staying here days, weeks, sometimes a month before we can get them into appropriate facilities. So they're very interested in seeing what we could do. So our current efforts are, we are working with, we talked with everybody we could around the country, and we found that nobody's opening new nursing homes in Illinois because there are a couple issues in Illinois. We have very low Medicaid reimbursement, and we are rated as the 47th worst quality for skilled care in the country. So we've really got an issue in this state and in this county. We talked with developers and said people who had nursing homes, and we would go look at them, and they were expanding, and we would say, here's what we can do in Illinois, and they'd say, we're not coming to Illinois. Too many problems there. So we finally found a couple of facilities, the greenhouse that Nancy talked about. We found some people who were doing this in Arkansas and Ohio, and it's a relatively new concept. It is a much more home-like setting. There are cottages. There are only 12 units in each cottage. Each unit has its own private room and private bathroom, and they all sit around a big table for their meals. So it's a much more home-like setting. And as Nancy said, they have what they don't call the people who work there CNAs, they call them Shabbats, universal workers. So a Shabbat or CNA, instead of coming in and cleaning 12 bedpans or doing 15 baths, they come in and they have 4 what they call elders that they take care of, but they do everything for their elders. They are the caregiver, as if you brought somebody into your house to be a caregiver. They come in, they wake the person up, they help them get dressed, they find out what they want to eat, they go out and cook what that elder wants to eat, they bring it back for them. They do the laundry individually. I don't know if any of you have had somebody in a nursing home, but when that laundry goes out, sometimes it comes back, sometimes it doesn't. That's not what happens here. And so the Shabbat is the caregiver. And I took the woman who used to be the chief nursing officer, Carl, who did not believe that this was a concept that would work, and she went down to Arkansas where we looked at a developer who originally had 13 traditional nursing homes, went out, found out about greenhouse, came back, built one, now built 9 more, and he says he'll never do another traditional nursing home. And when she came and looked at it, she went out and talked with this CNAs, which they are licensed CNAs, and she said, okay, we got to come back and open 2 of these in Champaign County. This is the answer. So we are, let me just go back. We research sites and go back one more for just a second, and I'll hurry up. And we have formalized a partnership with the U of I. The U of I is interested in involving some of their aging research, not as guinea pigs, but trying to bring technology that could be very helpful. For example, in the College of Engineering, there's a faculty member who does smart floors. These are floors that measure the walking or the gait of the person who's on the floor. So they're used to try to anticipate instability and maybe falls before they happen. And it's that kind of technology that we're hoping to bring to this. We have, our next steps are, we have this developer. He would come in, he'd invest $20 million to build a 120-unit facility. Our job being Advocates for Aging Care, is to raise $3 million for working capital. Advocates for Aging Care would be the operating entity, the not-for-profit operating entity. This guy would come in and develop the facility, and then, more than you really want to know, but he would manage it, because what we don't want is a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing managing a nursing home. We want it to be sustainable. The next thing that we need to do is get what's called a certificate of need. We have to go to public health and get approval to license these beds, to build these beds. You can't just go out and do it. And that is one of our asks of all of you. At some point, we're going to need a letter from the communities and people who can say to the state of Illinois, yes, we do have this need in our area. Please allow us to build this facility. And that's really critical in terms of us getting the support to build this. We are involved with the U of I, and we're sponsoring a research workshop. We've already talked with the faculty members about the kinds of interests that they might have. We meet with them on February 26th, and they're going to look at what research they're involved in that might be applicable or useful here. We also have the opportunity to do clinical training Right now, Parkland trains all the CNAs. They can't even do much of the on-site training here because we don't have facilities that are qualified. In case you don't know, we only have 2 nursing homes in town, and the third one is at Clark Lindsay, and that one downsized from 105 beds to 49 so that they could care for just the people who live at Clark Lindsay. So if you thought that was an option for you, it probably isn't in the future. There's only 2 other nursing homes in town, and people just don't realize that till they're in the hospital and discharge planner comes and says, okay, you need to go, but probably you're going to go to Gifford or Bloomington or Peoria or someplace like that because you can't do it here. I've already told you about the greenhouse model. I think we've told you about enough of that, but it is very different. They are about 400 of them in the country. Actually, Clark Lindsay has 2 of them in terms of the structure at Clark Lindsay, but they don't employ the concept of the universal worker with their, and I think it's because they also have a traditional nursing home as part of it. We're really committed to going into this 100%. And the other ask we would have is, the other thing we're trying to do is get land. We need 10 acres of land. We're talking to people about donating land. If you happen to know of anybody who has 10 acres of land, or if you're aware of somebody who might want to free up some farmland, let us know, because the next thing we have to do is the certificate of need, getting the land, and raise $3 million. So the consideration of land, really what we need is the letter of support, and then the other ask would be if you have any groups where we could come talk about this. We will be doing fundraising soon. We'll start that effort very soon. We are getting some support, for instance, for Carl. Carl is covering all of our legal bills and all helping us develop this. So we're getting support because Senator Faraci and Senator Chapin Rose came together and said, look, we're going to co-host a leadership council. The people on that council are Dr. Leonard, Pam Lau, who's the CEO of Parkland, and the real leaders in the community. It's because the senators said, we need to get this done, but we are going to have to rely on the whole community to come together to do this. And that's really why we're here talking to you tonight. Thank you so much for letting us come and talk to you.
Are there any questions? John?
I have a question. I met with the ladies Monday, and it just blew me away. And it just reminded me that this is an issue that affects everyone. It's not just some little issue here that I believe this, or I'm for or against or whatnot. Every one of us should be behind getting more, whether this is it or whatever, but we need skilled care big time. It transcends parties and affects everyone. If I could ask, the county, we approved a referendum, is it 2002, a county nursing home, and we know that there was a building part and then there was an ongoing part. So there still is an ongoing tax that we as citizens do contribute every year. Is that correct, ladies?
Yes. So I can address that a little. In 2002, the voters of Champaign approved a 3% property tax levy that appeared on your property tax bills for 15 years as nursing home levy, 3%. In 2018, when the county sold the nursing home to a private operator, the designation on your property tax bill went away, but the levy did not change. This is all perfectly legal, and it wasn't anything sinister. It was apparently what happens when a designated tax, because it wasn't a separate taxing district. It wasn't the nursing home taxing district. So it was really an indication on your property tax bill that showed that you had approved this and that the money was going there.
But somebody changed the language.
No, all that happened was that the designation Champaign County Nursing Home Tax disappeared from your property tax bill. From your property tax bill, right? And so there
But they're
was
still levying it.
But the property tax bill continued to be levied.
But right, the levy was exactly the same. You're right. So you are correct that I think if you're suggesting that there's money there in the county that would not be there but for the nursing home levy, I think that is right. We have had discussions with the county board and with the finance committee, And I don't want to speak for them, but I would say that they're not about to write us a check. We are pursuing we think that our nonprofit entity is a good candidate and actually have some right to ask for this money on behalf of the taxpayers of Champaign-Urbana County. And we are going to keep pursuing this. We had a meeting just yesterday with the Finance Committee, and we have more to discuss, but we're hopeful, and we are insisting as much as we can, but I think that there will be many citizens who will ask the question that you asked.
So, yeah, the bottom line is that the county we still get money for aging, for a nursing home, ongoing, not the construction part, but the ongoing.
Right.
So that is designated. The voters, when they said yes to nursing home. They said yes to skilled care. And as far as I can understand from my small mind, that money still should go to a nursing home situation, a skilled care situation. It's not really their money. It really is the taxpayers' money. And so I would think that one of the things we could do is to advocate for that money either going away, get rid of it, because that's what we've said yes to, or that it needs to go towards something that approaches the aging crisis, which I usually don't use that word, in this community.
Well, we very much agree with you and look for your support as we go forward with this, because it is definitely something that we are pursuing, and that we share your feeling that the county, I don't want to say owes us, but that this is money that we have allocated as voters to a particular fund. It was years and years ago, but people haven't forgotten about it, and the money is still coming in.
They can't just absorb it, it seems to me. Yeah. And so for those people who are watching, or as we go forward, it seems to me that there needs to be an understanding or pressure, or whatever you want to say, to the county board to say, you can't just use this for, I mean, hey, I'd love to have $3 million that Savoy could use for something, and just kind of absorb it. That's not how it works, and that's not how referenda need to work.
Did you want to say?
I just want to add one other thing. So when we talk with the county board, we see this as a service because it's so underserved in our community, because it's a need of our elderly population. We feel like any of the governmental agencies have a role in taking a look at how are we serving our citizens. And in the case of the county, particularly because the citizens said, yes, we will support this, and they're raising a tax for it. So, it's part of why Senator Faraci said it's got to take the whole community, because it's a vulnerable population that we should be trying to address. If we had plenty of nursing homes, nobody'd be paying attention to that tax, but we've got a real significant need, and it's a service that I think community, we're looking for help in the safety net. So I just went back.
I have a question about the model, and I do understand that there is a huge need for people getting into a skilled care facility as they need to leave the hospital. There's many residents in our neighborhood that have experienced that hour drive away from their family. However, with the model you're talking about, I had some specific questions about that, because if each home has room for 12, and we have a need for almost 300, is this an effective model really for us to be able to use for the majority of people? Because also just going from house to house is an issue for CNAs, where they could walk down a hallway, they could serve a lot of people. So I see it's an ideal place to live, but is it something that's really feasible for the size need that we have?
It's a good question. So it won't address all of the need, but what we think is if you came up with something like the Old County Nursing Home, which would have 200 beds, you have the same problem in terms of the level of dignity and care And we think that the opportunity is if we can build this one, and it's as successful as we've seen it be in both Ohio and Arkansas, then it's the first one, then we do another one. Because if we try to accomplish the whole solution right now, we don't have the option of this kind of a concept. And as the guy who has developed these says, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I'd like to go move into a nursing home today. But this provides a level of dignity that when I went into one of them, when this CNO came with me, she walked up to the dining room table and said to one of the women, would you mind if we look at your home? Because she's really good about that. And the woman said, no, that'd be fine. But let me introduce you to all my friends here at the table first. Now, you just don't get, and this is a skilled nursing facility. It's not assisted living. So you just don't get that atmosphere.
Well, I agree that's an ideal atmosphere.
Right, and
Just
so what we
comparing
want-
ideal with scope.
Right, that's right. But what we want to do is start with the ideal. And then if that works, we do another ideal. There's no reason we can't do another cottage like this. And the CNAs don't go from house to house. They are dedicated to their 4 elders in their house. Now, the one that would go from house to house a little bit is the RN. And these places have to meet all the needs of a licensed skilled nursing facility. We're not looking at a different kind of designation. It's the same number of hours. And in fact, we just talked with a guy at the state who said when we look at the staffing hours that they have in greenhouses in Arkansas compared to the staffing hours that you need in Illinois to reach this quality level, he said, all of yours meet it. You're already at the top of the quality level. Now there's some things that creates some issues too. One of the reasons we think we should get this tax is we will be not for profit. We will accept Medicaid. You may or may not know that, for instance, that Clark Lindsay doesn't accept Medicaid. They only take private pay patients or Medicare patients. We are expect to have 50% of our patients be Medicaid. That's very typical for a nursing home. Most nursing homes, like Accolade, has about 80% Medicaid because people run out of funds. So we wouldn't say help fund this and not be not-for-profit and Medicaid. We think that's important. And we are going to be looking for additional sources of revenue even when we're operational. But if we could get that county tax, it would allow us to do this higher level. And as Laura says, here we are, an affluent community with a lot of technology. Why would we not be providing the best in terms of care for our elderly, vulnerable population instead of some of the worst?
Any other questions?
No short answers from us, I'm sorry.
I thought there might be one other one, but thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll move on. Our next discussion item is a budget. During our budget discussion 1, we'll turn this over to Tina.
Hello. As I sent out in our email, this evening we're going to discuss revenue, boards and commissions, Office of Management and Budget, community and economic development, parks and recreation, and then tips. So you all have a copy or your laptops, so you're prepared for that. Okay, just want to make sure. So I'll just kind of point out a couple of things, and then I'll point out a couple of things in each category. Like I'll do revenue, then I'll open up so you guys can ask questions about revenue, then we'll go on to the next one so that we just kind of keep it all nice and neat. If that is okay with everyone. So in revenue, we'll start with state. I base this on averages. Every month we get a deposit into our account, and I have a chart that I put those into, and so I'm constantly updating that. Every month I do a budget report that Andy and I review together and make sure that we're staying on top of things. We can see any increases or decreases and try to figure out what's going on. One thing that is going to change starting in April of this year is the grocery tax. It obviously started in January, but in April we'll actually see our first deposit as the grocery tax. So I will start reporting in May a separate line item for that, but for the purpose of this budget, it is included in the state sales tax line item. But when we move forward in our quarterly budget reports, I will separate that out so you guys can keep a tab on that as well. So you may say, well, we're not hitting that municipal, or I'm sorry, yeah, that municipal tax. But if you add the two lines together, it's gonna be pretty much close to what the average is. As far as the county state revenue, or I'm sorry, the county revenue, I did base that off of I based that off of 97% of the 325 million. We should get an updated EAV right before we pass the budget in April. So if that needs to be adjusted, I will do last minute work and adjust that. So maybe we'll get a couple $100,000 extra. Cross your fingers. And then the local revenue, again, it's just kind of averaged out. There's nothing special about it. I do a little bit conservative because you never know what's gonna happen. Example, COVID and hotel tax. So if you guys have any questions on revenue.
Are there any questions on revenue?
In just all, in general?
Yeah.
Let's see. So line item 22 through 36, they're all zeros in the budget going forward. And why is that again?
Because we stopped levying for specific items and we just put everything into a general fund so then that money can be appropriated where needed throughout the year instead of going to one specific thing. The only other thing that we levy for specifically is our fire pension. And so I'm showing you the history with all those line items, and if you added them all up, they would equal.
So then in 5 years, when the first goes away, then we won't see any history.
Correct. Well, you'll still see history, but it'll just be for general.
This gives us the ability to be more flexible.
Correct.
With the money coming in.
Correct. So if one line is running a little low for some reason, we can reallocate from a line that may have a little bit more.
I guess, so all of those 22 to 37, will those line items go away?
They do not go away, they just become part of the general fund in a
So I'll
separate.
still see each thing.
Yes, so this is just revenue. So you will not see it broke down for revenue, but you will see it broke down as an expense. Because we don't specifically ask for it from the county, we just do a general one.
Any other questions?
More revenue? Oh, just like, are we down to 46, line item 46? Because that's general.
Phone franchise?
Yeah. So it is going from 34,000 to 60,000, cable TV, line item 46.
Cable TV, yes, we have noticed a drop in that, because it's, not as many people have cable. So we're not getting as many funds as we used to.
And then 49, line 49, municipal aggregation, that's just kind of all over the board there. And can you explain that?
We stopped doing that electrical, what line item are you on? I'm sorry.
49.
325.
The electrical and gas,
Municipal aggregation.
okay, so that's 50 on mine, I'm sorry.
Could you list the item? It would help me.
Okay, I thought the line, the number would be good enough.
Yeah, you gotta do like.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, 329.
We stopped, the municipal aggregation stopped several years ago. It was a decision that was made to not renew it.
Is that the 1% or something we could charge as a municipality?
I believe so. That was in existence before I came, so I just got in on the end of it, so I wasn't sure what the details were on that. And that was before I did budget stuff.
And 387, I thought this would be under Public Works, maybe it is. Memorial tree contributions. Have we made a decision not to allocate?
We do not put money towards that. We receive money if people want to do that, and then we turn around and pay that money out. It's but we don't actually budget for that.
Well, true, okay, because, 5-year average is 287 that we got in from people.
Any questions, other questions about revenue?
No.
Okay, move on.
The next one will be boards and commissions. I really don't have anything to point out on that one. It's pretty much, we pay the president, we pay the trustees, and then we have official village business expense, and then their professional development. It's pretty cut and dry for those. Nothing too exciting, sorry.
Yes.
So, on that 436, so 2021, 22, 23, it says 0. And then it says 4,000, 2,000, 1,000. Did we not?
We created that line item.
What was it before?
I do not know. It was something that we saw a need for, and so we decided to put it in and name it that, so we could keep track a little bit better and a little bit clearer on what the money is being spent on.
If I recall right, it was something in O&B, and it was, but it was
Before
really,
OMB.
yeah,
Before
it was
OMB.
before OMB, and it was, that's what I recall anyway, and it was grouped in with other,
It was probably more along the lines of miscellaneous
it might have been miscellaneous, yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, that's really boards and commissions, so
Yeah,
it should
I'm
go
not a
in.
fan of miscellaneous.
No,
Right.
we don't have much anymore.
No, we only have one line, but that's under OMB.
Any questions at all on boards and commissions?
It's,
All right, we'll move on.
All right, next up will be Office of Management and Budget. So this guy contains a lot of stuff that's for the entire village. It's not necessarily just the staff that's in Office of Management and Budget, but it covers a lot, a broad brush. So,
For example, a couple of years ago, we put all IT stuff under,
yes,
instead of having each department
yes.
have their own IT budget, we put it
Put
under
it all
one.
under one. We did the same with, instead of, I still keep track of it as individual buildings, but building maintenance. Same with waste hauling, utilities, but ultimately it goes into one line item, but I do keep it broke up, so if we ever wanna go back and take a look at what does it cost to run the rec center, I can easily come up with that number for you guys and have it, instead of having to go look through so many papers.
so, line item, 821 and following, I was kind of wondering about that, it's all over the board there, where you've decided that it's all one shot instead of breaking it down. I'm not sure I'm a fan of that. I kind of thought, knowing what the maintenance is of the municipal center, so I have a better idea of what's going wrong, having it all lumped together. I
It's
guess
still
a dis-
broke up though. So if you look at, does your guys have it? Yeah, so 821 is the line that I put the budget number on, but each of those numbers underneath where it says municipal center, fire, recreation, public works, when we enter an invoice, it is specifically designated towards one of those. And so I can go in and tell you what the municipal center budget would be, or
But
municipal
I'd have to
center.
go to you.
Mhm.
It's broken down on the budget right there.
I can
You
tell you
see,
from a public works standpoint, managing the buildings, it's easier to manage this way because if before you'd have one building run over and one a little short, so you kept having to transfer money back and forth. It's just easier to have it as an entire sum. It's still tracked so that the information is available.
For budgeting purposes, it's one bucket of money, but for reporting purposes,
I break it.
you're breaking it out based on the different facilities.
Correct.
That to me seems like a very reasonable.
And I do the same, like again, with the utilities,
Yeah.
the alarm monitoring, and the waste hauling. They're all broke out like that.
I agree, it looks, and it certainly is more efficient and easier to manage. from a trustee perspective, it is, you know, it's a little harder to navigate, you know, what's happening.
But all you have to do, to be honest.
As you say, it's available.
Yeah, and you could just send an email and I could give you a quick update, because I do a budget report every month that we can review and go over, because you guys aren't gonna have these numbers anyway unless you get into the system. So I can always break anything out if you ask me without a problem.
I think Larry was, his hand up.
I'm just a little more concerned about, the onus is then on us if we were to, wanna find a certain building is costing more out of that budget. It's up to us to fine tune that. I wonder if there's any way that we could receive mid-year or, any sort of a breakdown. I mean,
It's in the quarterly report that you guys get every month, or I'm sorry, every quarter.
okay, so that's
This basically you guys get where we are to date.
and that has the breakdown for the buildings.
It should. If not, I will make sure I expand it and include it for you. Because I have it, I just may hide it when I send it so you just see the big number. But if you would like me to break it out, I can just unhide it. Not a problem. Yep.
Heather?
I prefer, I'll just express, I prefer this method, and then if there's a question about management or how funds are flowing for a building, then in that case, it would be useful to have more specific information.
Absolutely.
But part of being able to manage funds is to have that category that you can use to
Right.
capitalize on savings when that opportunity presents itself or to address a specific problem.
Correct.
So
And
I endorse what we have here.
And like Roland had said, what we found over the past couple of years is, say, a furnace went out and we have to replace, and the public works line item didn't have enough money to make that replacement, then I'm just having to do so many reallocations to find the money to do that. But if it's all in one pot, we can just divvy it up easier.
And I don't wanna speak for Tina, but when she says hide and unhide, she's referring to an Excel sheet
Yes.
where she sends a big file
Oh, yeah.
and she can slide and I just
Right.
wanna make sure.
Thank you for
I
clarifying,
just,
sir.
I understood, I just wanna make sure that
Yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate
hiding
that.
and unhiding sounds ambiguous, but we're talking about a spreadsheet that you can
Hide the
hide a
line item,
column
yeah.
and bring it back out if you request to see the whole column as
Correct.
opposed to what's hidden.
Correct.
Sorry.
No,
OCD
you are
Dennis
fine.
is popping out
I
here.
get it. So OMB is fully staffed, and that includes our new HR specialist as well as our new part-time marketing and communications employee. So we are good there. Also, you will notice that law enforcement took a big jump. That is because we are adding a fourth full-time deputy, so the village will now be, taken care of 24/7. So we will have 4 full-time deputies that will rotate.
Or that's what we're budgeting for.
That is what we are budgeting for.
Yes. Of course, it's up to the board to decide
Correct,
that's what we
correct.
want, but with the assumption that that's what the board's gonna want, so.
And we are talking with the sheriff, and hopefully we'll be able to bring you guys that in April, is our hopes, because the current contract expires April 30th. And then also, you'll notice a huge jump, trustee Maverick actually emailed me about this one, about the Social Security Medicare tax number. That is because
Where's that?
it is line item 0101724.
Page at the bottom.
Page 5, you said?
Yes.
Page 5 at the bottom. We have it pulled up on the screen.
Yeah, it's on the very bottom of that. It's-
Looking at us all there, maybe we
For
should
160.
budget for some magnifiers.
160.
So the reason that number has jumped up is because of the fire department, and they are basically fully staffed for their shifts. So that makes, obviously, we have to pay our FICA taxes, and so that is a have to, and I took everyone's, based on everyone's wages in the entire village, and that covers everyone. You multiply it out, times the percentages, and do some lovely math, and that's what we came up with.
Speaking of the fire department.
Right, right on cue.
Joan?
So 725, 721, RMA insurance and insurance and claims. I noticed that it has 000 on the one, and then it transfers to real money, and the other one has real money, transfers to zero. What happened? What's that all about?
That is also one of those where we combined them instead of paying them separately. So remember at the beginning when we were talking about revenue, and I said we quit levying for specific line items? This is what happened when we went to the expense. I'm showing you the history when we used to pay for those out of separate funds, and now we're paying for it out of the general fund out of one line item. So you have the history, if you will, at the beginning, 2021, 21, 22. If you add those together, you would get what would go on the line above it. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
So, John,
Yeah.
42100, full-time wages for OMB.
Mm-hmm.
So, in 20 to 21, it was 437,000, well, let's say 438,000. And fiscal year 2026, it's 667,000.
Correct.
And you're saying that, and even the jump from last year, next year, 526,000, 667,000, and that's gonna be due to our part-time.
That is because we are fully staffed now. So in 25, 26, we were not fully staffed the entire year. So that's not necessarily what I budgeted, those are actual costs. So because we are not fully staffed, the number is lower. We were also minus a village administrator for a few months. So that is a big number. So then going forward for 26, 27, that is completely fully staffed. And that's why that number is bigger.
Any other questions?
Okay. Our next one is community and economic development. Give me 1 second here to find my page. Once again, CED is fully staffed, which is super exciting. And really, it's pretty easy. There's not too much. They're pretty even keel. Try and get there on the worksheet here. You had it. So 106 is the beginning line item numbers for CED.
Page 12 and 13.
Anyone have any questions on this one?
Larry?
Yeah, so you're talking about adding a line, subtracting a line.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see a line added, and maybe we can talk about this, for Savoy events. We could, so we have the marathon.
Mm-hmm. The marathon is covered under 106,926.
Which is,
Sponsorship and promotion.
okay, so that's the sponsorship, but then if we were to have other events, July 4th or just think, it seems like if that were separated, that would be a better solution to have it so it doesn't come from, I mean, that's not, yeah, I guess that's the marathons could be considered a sponsorship.
Yes,
But it's
because we
also
do
sort of
donate to them, specifically
the donation part.
we do a donation, and then we do,
Promotions of the event.
correct.
Promotion,
Thank
and
you.
that's what that goes toward the brand, the Savoy brand.
Mhm.
And I'd like to see something where we have a line item where we have events, Savoy events that go toward promoting Savoy. And that could be the marathon, it could be coming up, supporting a large event that comes up, like Rotary has a big gathering coming up, which will bring 500 or more people to the village. A July 4th event, maybe a New Year's event, maybe even a chili cook-off event, something that's for the whole village of Savoy that helps promote the brand. And I think this might be a good place for it.
So that would be something that we could absolutely do. You guys would have to kind of develop that line so we know how much money to put in there. And then we can kind of give some specifics to it in our notes as to what it is going to be for, so we can stay in a certain parameter of the monies.
And then what, we would just subtract money from somewhere else in the budget to make it,
At this time, yes, because I've budgeted pretty much every dollar.
And how would we do that?
How
Would
would
we
we
talk
do
about
that?
it now and come up with something, or what would be the best way to get it done?
well, now there's the study session for this, I mean, if that's something you can see how the other board members, so what are you proposing?
Proposing that there's a line item, and the wording might not be right, but for Savoy village events, promoting the village, total of $15,000. That includes the marathon, which is not the sponsorship end of things. And that's just,
Would you like the staff to figure out where to take that money from in the budget, or would you like to identify where that money can come
I
from?
think if they can figure out where that might come.
So the economic development initiatives, that is designated for $100,000. And that is, tell me again what that $100,000 is going towards.
It goes towards a multitude of things. The IHSA basketball promotion that we support each year, which is $10,000. That is where our BPAG program comes out of.
The what?
The BPAG, the business, sorry, Andy, what is it?
Yeah, I know. I knew
I
you were
just
gonna ask. It's
lost
for
it.
building improvements that businesses can,
Grants,
apply
yeah.
for.
Yes, and that can be up to 5 or 6, I believe, that can apply for that. And we also have a spring and fall that we do. And then we also paid a fee for experienced Champaign County, and I cannot tell you off the top of my head what that was for. 10? I think it's $10,000, yeah.
So that's, that isn't on sponsorships and promotions, Jane DeLuce's 926, that's on economic development initiatives. So the sponsorships and promotions is 30, that isn't
That is marathon, that is chamber, and it's the marathon and chamber of commerce activities. Like we sponsored a table, we sponsored a mixer. Those are the ones I can remember off the top of my head.
Okay, I guess, we tried to get a farmer's market seed money for that, and we didn't have any money, so I think what I'm hearing him say is somewhere to have some money set aside for, initiatives that maybe we hadn't thought of before, because what happens is we might have this initiative, or we might have something that was very popular, and, sorry, we don't have any money. And so now this is the time to say, we really want
And I would
This-
really
money.
encourage you all to find where you would like that money to come from. Because like I said, the money currently is completely budgeted. So if you have an idea of, hey, we could knock this down a little bit, or I would take an email, you don't have to do it tonight, if you could just email me in the next week, and let me know.
For understanding, I just wanna make sure, are you asking for 15,000 in addition to the 30 that is budgeted here before us? So 45 total?
They want a whole new line item.
Yeah,
It wouldn't have to
So
be.
in addition to the 30, so that would make 30 plus 15.
Yes.
I just wanna make sure I'm understanding, if we pull it, we're adding a completely new line for
It would
whatever
have
that
to be a
amount.
new line item, they're consolidating tons of stuff, so it just would be, would be a policy decision that we'd have to make, is not for her to make. This is for us to make, whether we want, more money towards, economic, development initiatives and things that are really cool for Savoy, and we'll never get those if we don't budget something.
Right. You know, I mean, I think, for example, farmer's market, this is something that would bring people into the community. I think it'd be great for the village, there'd be talk about the village. These events are very important, I believe, for our brand, for people
That's,
to identify.
again, that's still under sponsorships and promotions. I mean, I don't quite know
I guess
why changing the name or adding an extra box when it's gonna cover the same
my-
thing, but
my question is,
now if you'd like to have more money
well,
allocated towards that.
Thank you.
I think I'd like to kind of put a silo it for example, the farmer's market. As an example, if economic development did not have that, if they've allocated all that money, then mid-year, if you're told you can't, that where are you gonna find that money? And that is the case, that's kind of the historic precedent that, I think we as a board should decide, do we want to look at that and look at a farmer's market, or do we want to look at some other event, a July 4th event that might be an initiative, and now would be the time to set that aside for that reason.
Okay, so you're wanting, what you said, 15,000? So, on a different line item. Before we move forward, Dennis, are you,
I'm still,
would you
still
like this too,
confused
or?
as
Yeah.
to creating a line, and I wanna make sure I understand. Creating a line for a specific event, farmer's market or the marathon. My question is, are we creating the line as part of the sponsorship and promotions, or do we have a $30,000 pot for sponsorships and promotions and an additional 15,000 for the marathon or farmer's market, for a total of sponsorships and promotions of $45,000? That's my question.
That's essentially what we're,
That's right. I want to make sure what the ask
Perhaps
is.
I could speak, I don't know, Larry, are you concerned that if it's not listed, it won't happen?
Exactly.
But I don't think we need a different line item. I think you're suggesting a policy decision of more money allocated towards some things that maybe will build the community. And what happens is we never have any money for it. We don't have it now, we don't have it then, we don't, whatever. So I certainly don't, there's plenty of line items here that it would fit into, or two that would fit into it. But I think that's what you're saying, but we really don't need a different line item. But his concern is that if it's not listed, it wouldn't happen.
Where did the 30,000?
And whether it gets spent or not, for instance, this coming year,
If you take 20,000, if you take 10,000 for this sponsorship, then we've got CV, Convention Bureau, and pretty much that's it. There's nothing left. So it'd be nice if could see that breakdown.
Mr. President, may I? I think Trustee Dykstra makes a good point. I mean, this really is a policy-related topic. We have $273,000 available to us. I think we all recognize the importance of not only what Trustee Camphor's saying, but also the importance of bringing new business to our community. And $273,000 is a relatively small amount of money. So if I may offer up the opportunity to bring forward a study session related to our policies specific to community and economic development, and if this board feels that those types of initiatives, farmers markets, the list can go on, is important, then we can determine that we maybe don't want to fund BPEGs moving forward or new businesses moving forward, again with our limited funds. It really is a policy-related decision, and so I can work with the economic development team to bring forward something this summer that helps us designate these funds more specifically. I agree. I mean, we have plenty of line items that a farmer's market could fall under, but it's really, we, I believe, have a vision in economic development that we want to bring new businesses in that make our tax base more robust and bring people into our community. And those items do, but they may also be more cost prohibitive than bringing in a new brick and mortar business. And if that is the direction the board wants to take, that's fine. I just think we need to codify that in a policy type discussion.
Thank you. That's where I was trying to understand the ask, because if you look at the sponsorship and promotions from last year, we contributed to the marathon in some manner, but it didn't specifically say marathon. That's what I'm asking. I want to make sure.
The notes do not say marathon. It just says sponsorships and promotions.
Yes.
You would have to go to the actual money that was spent.
Yes,
and look
and
at
that's
the
why
general ledger
I
and
wanted
see
to
it.
make sure I understood that as part of that, certainly, if we have $60,000 in sponsorship and development, part of that would go towards a farmer's market or marathon. But what I wanted to make sure that it wasn't 60,000 plus another 30 specifically for the marathon and the farmer's market. And that would be a policy decision as to, do we want to contribute for this or that as part of that pool, but not necessarily have 15 items under that specifically designated for the farmer's market or the marathon, which we would contribute to if those funds were there. And that is, I believe what Andy's saying, a policy decision as to what we fund out of what specific pot we're pulling.
And
No,
And
please.
I was going to say, you can, the way that we do it, like if you look at our IT line item of an O&D, and you go to the notes so everyone can reference those, they would say, it tells you exactly what we're spending the money on. We have 30,000 set aside for hardware. We have 12 different software programs that we have to renew our subscription for each year. So the money is earmarked, if you will. We just have to make sure we stay within those parameters of what is listed. If it's something new, then it's a discussion of, okay, then we aren't going to do this. So we can do it under one line item and you just increase the line item and then go through and specifically state what you would like to spend that money on or set aside.
Alrighty. For the sake of a long meeting, not getting any longer, why don't we move on?
Okay. Next is, Parks and Rec. They are fully staffed, and it looks like the revenue, based on what I'm seeing right now, this current year, 25-26, it looks like the revenue is going to be a little over 200,000 that they bring in. And then that money, as always, will roll over into their line item that is carried in SIF. So that number will change at the beginning of next fiscal year once we have an exact number of what was brought in.
Could you reference page 8?
8 and 9. Eight and 9.
Two thirty.
2:30.
226 is the top header. Row 226.
Do you have any questions?
Any questions at all? Okay, I'll give people a few minutes to, or a few seconds. Don't know that it'll be minutes, but.
So Parks and Recs is still, not quite breaking even with their expenses.
No.
But we're doing better than
They're
we were a
growing.
few years ago.
Yes, they are
Well,
absolutely
they are
growing and doing wonderful, but
They're very popular.
Mhm. But we are seeing increases in their revenue, so that is amazing. No questions?
I think, looks like, see Joan with her head still in the computer. Are you good? Okay. And then Heather, you look like you were still thinking.
No, I'm just interested in seeing this grow because I had supported, Parks and Recs, and I see what an enormously popular, department or.
It has become,
division it
absolutely.
is, and how it serves Savoy, but then I'm wondering, how are we doing with all that growth?
They're doing very well, and it takes more staff, obviously, so their staff numbers have to increase as far as their part-time staff in the summers, and Nick can probably speak a little more to it than I can. I just see the actual numbers and all the other fun stuff.
We try and look at it through how much impact are we having on the community. Some of that comes in revenue, but a lot more of that comes in kids coming through camp. What are they learning? What are they taking from it? The events that we're putting on for the community, how are those going through? And we try and keep all of our fees low because we want as many people coming through as possible. We do raise fees where we see the markets allow and where it's necessary, and those sorts of things. Camp fees in particular have gone up over the last couple of years. But we try and keep events free and those sorts of things. So there are lots of things that we want to make sure are still accessible to our entire community. And so some of that stuff will keep some of those revenues down. But overall, when we look at impact, it continues to go up every year. The number of hours people are spending with us in our parks, all those sorts of things. And so you're seeing a lot of benefits that are coming to our community. And we're seeing our revenues grow, we really are. But the impact goes much, much farther beyond the revenues.
And I would say, I never thought it should be a profit-making endeavor. I'm just interested in, I know it's, very popular, well-used, and important for Savoy. When I'm doing the math, it's supposed to be, we said it would be an amenity, and the cost of the amenity per person, per population, if you do the math, is actually lower than I had predicted when we first, went down this path. So I think we're doing quite well. So I didn't want anyone to feel my remarks were, anything but positive.
Very good.
Any other questions? Okay.
All right, and the last thing we're gonna cover tonight is TIF. TIF 1 is obviously closed, but we still have some funds that we can use. I did not allocate for anything specifically, because we did pass a resolution in 2022 that the money could be spent on, which we at some point, I believe Andy should revisit that and go. We did do some recent things with that as far as some sidewalks. We did a sidewalk repair up front, and we did a sidewalk out to the Gold Star, correct? The Gold Star. So those are things we can use the money on, so we can revisit that at another time, but I didn't specifically put anything in there for that expense on TIF 1. In TIF 2, really the only thing that happens with that is the redevelopment agreement that we have with TD Rents. Other than that, it's pretty much on par. I think we have another 10 years with them, if I did the math correctly. And the main thing that's going to come out of TIF 3 is the demolition contract. If you pass that tonight, or well, next week, you'll discuss it tonight. That will be funded from TIF 3.
Any questions on the TIFs? TIFs. Okay, the TIF. Have you been able to find it? 17, page 17?
Row 430 is where TIF start.
28, 29, and 30.
15, page 15.
TIF 1's on 430, TIF 2's on 461. TIF 3's on 491. Level 3's.
I know what I want to ask you, there we go. So TIF 3, you probably, while I was looking at it, you probably answered this, but, so our budgeted, is, you just put in some numbers, 10,000, 10,000, 28, 28. How did you come up with those numbers?
So when we originally started doing the budget, we didn't have any specific asks at that time or projects. So, but then the demolition came about that we are going to be doing with the downtown, right? The downtown demolition. And that is going to be funded by the TIF. Yes, those were just placeholders until we figured out what we were going to do.
They look like placeholders?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? All righty.
That is all for tonight.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just a closing, I thank you for everything you did in preparing this. When I got the spreadsheet, I went through and I created a table that probably had 40 or 50 questions in it. So I've been sitting quietly tonight because I asked all my questions via email, and I got very prompt responses that were complete and gave me a lot of great information. So if any of those were like groundbreaking information, I would have talked about them out loud in the public, but most of it was my ignorance of not understanding what Tina had put into the budget, and she helped me understand. So anyone who, I think I made a similar comment last year when we were going through budget, because I did a similar process last year. If you ask the questions there, you get very great responses and incredibly fast too. So I know we're more than a month after I asked all my questions and got them answered. So thank you, Tina, for the complete answers and prompt responses.
Absolutely.
Joe?
Yeah. On behalf of asking them beforehand, but also during, we're looking, people are watching us, and if we have all of our question answers and they don't hear anything, it'll look like a rubber stamp. And so we need a combination of transparency and ignorance, and ignorance answered in my case, right? And asking beforehand. So on behalf of
Well,
the taxpayers.
I get the feeling Bill was saying that so that he explained why he.
That's why I was sitting quietly and not asking questions, because I had a lot of questions and I asked them and they were answered.
So,
Including, some of them that have already been, one of the answers was Andy was looking to hire a part-time marketing communications individual, which we all got an email about a couple of days ago that we hired. So that was, that was my question a month ago, and now it's already come to practice. So.
Alrighty, well, any other questions for this first budget? Again, if you do come up with any questions, feel free to email Tina or Andy on it. I'm sure they'll be happy to answer any questions, and then we'll have other opportunities to discuss the budget later on and different aspects of it, okay? With that being said, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank
Tina.
you.
We'll move on to the study session items. First item up for discuss is study session item 2026-03, resolution approving the 2026 zoning map for the village of Savoy. And once we approve that, hopefully next week we'll update our map and maybe even come up with a more attractive map for the one.
That's the plan, Mr.
That's the
President.
plan.
Yeah, it might not be next week with that attractive portion, but we
Oh,
will
yeah,
definitely
but,
make it
once
look
we
nice.
do it, you know, so within the next couple of years. But anyway, we'll turn this over, Caitlin.
Yeah, so the proposed zoning map reflects all the annexations and rezonings that have occurred within the last year. There were several, many of which were Gulfview Court. Yeah, I'm happy to take any questions on that.
This will definitely streamline our map with our boundaries, especially towards the south a little bit, so it will look a little different. But any questions about the new map? We're required to do this once a year. Yes.
I just had one question on I had gotten some data from Champaign County GIS a number of years ago about the boundary agreement.
Sure.
Limits with Champaign, and they don't match what you have in the map that was provided in the packet. And I don't know which one is correct. The data that I got was from Champaign County GIS Consortium, and it was probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. Not that agreement has been adjusted.
Right.
Who knows if they recorded it properly, but it might be worth understanding. I was looking particularly in the area where it hits the interstate was
Sure.
different on the version I had versus what you're showing in this document. And I guess if we're voting on and approving this document, it would be appropriate to make sure that boundary agreement line is in the right spot.
Correct. This shape file also comes from GIS Consortium.
Okay.
What is, we could discuss it here, we can go back. and
No,
look at
we'll
the email.
take it offline. It's
Yeah.
something we need to make sure we got
Agreed, yeah.
correct before I don't remember seeing it in previous versions of the zoning map, so.
It was in the 2025 zoning map, it
Was
was
it?
passed at the UDO, but, yeah, happy to take a look.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, is everybody okay with us including this item as part of a consent agenda next week?
Yes.
All right. Moving right along. B. Move on to B, study session item 2026-04, a resolution rezoning 612 Clarendon Court from PDL planned unit development legacy district to R4 moderate density multifamily residential district. Turn that over to Caitlin.
Yeah, let me get the, presentation pulled up. Actually, Wendy's, is that, my computer's not connected, I guess, to the Wi-Fi, so it's not getting on the shared drive.
To use this time wisely, it'd be a great opportunity to share that we will be upgrading our audio and visual within the boardroom in the next month or two that will also provide for smoother presentations. We're very excited about that. We look forward to unveiling that. So it has, yes. It's a good time to discuss that. Yes, well, we'll be using that now. So something to look forward to.
Okay, almost there, I promise. Okay, yeah, as President Brown said, this is an item regarding the Thompson tract, as many of you know it, 612 Clarendon Court. We have an applicant, a representative of whom is here in the audience, who's looking to rezone the subject properties from PDL to R4 in order to facilitate the construction of independent senior housing at the site. The subject properties are currently vacant. Many of you may recall, the board approved a special use permit for a mixed-use PUD at the site in 2020. Special use permits have expiration date on them if the use isn't established within a certain time frame. So that authorization did expire, and so as a result, the authorization of the PUD has expired. The PDL district, without getting too into the weeds on it, it was the means of bridging the gap between how we used to handle PUDs and how we currently handle them under the UDO. Properties that had been zoned as PUDs under the old code are now the PDL district, and they're governed by whatever ordinance authorized them. Again, because the authorization of the PUD for this property expired, the property has to be rezoned in order for anything to be developed here. And just for some context setting, this is the subject property. It's currently vacant. It's been vacant since the village was incorporated, I believe, according to aerial data. To the north, we have Village Hall, as well as an outlot. To the south, personal and professional services. To the east, grocery store and restaurants. And to the west, townhomes, condos, but the housing typology under the UDO is townhomes. For surrounding zoning, PDL is the subject property. To the north, we have C1 general commercial, as well as P1 public uses and institutions. To the south and east, we have general commercial. To the west, we have R4, moderate density multifamily residential. And then again, for prior village actions, in 2020, that special use permit for the mixed use PUD was approved. In 2022, a final plat and site plan for the PUD was approved, and then last year, 2025, the UDO was adopted, which, among other things, brought how we govern planned unit developments into line with best practices. For project description and background, again, the applicant's under contract to purchase the subject property with plans to construct independent senior housing at the site. Worth noting that the applicant has several similar developments in their portfolio. I've attached some photos of other projects within their portfolio located throughout Illinois as well as Iowa. There's senior housing developments, family units, as well as permanent supportive housing units. For relevant sections of the code, again, the PDL district is kind of a placeholder for properties that had previously been zoned PUD. They continue to operate under the conditions of their specific PUD ordinance. Again, for this property, that's an issue because that ordinance, the authorization expired. The R4 district, which is being contemplated for this property, the intention, according to the UDO, is to provide areas for moderate density housing, so single family attached housing, multifamily dwellings, and other forms of housing where those uses are compatible with surrounding land uses. The intention is that these housing types would be served with common features like outdoor gathering spaces, and that the design would be consistent with the surrounding neighborhoods. I did also want to highlight, it's a little hard to read on the screen, but it is in your packet as well. Permitted residential uses in the R4 district. It permits anything from single unit or single family dwellings up to 5 to 12 units of multifamily. So again, moderate density. More than 12 units are not permitted in R4. And senior housing, whether independent or dependent, is permitted. I also included the definition of independent senior housing, I guess to contrast with the earlier presentation that was given. This is not intensive specialty care. This is more age-restricted, semi-supportive housing, assistance with daily life activities. When I spoke with somebody from North Arrow, what was said was that there would be assistance with transportation and similar daily life activities, but again, not specialty assistance. And important to note, within this definition, the UDO doesn't consider independent senior housing to be multifamily dwellings. The implication this has for what's being proposed is the preliminary site plan that's included in the application. What's being proposed there is only permitted as independent senior housing. It would not be, it can't start that way and then be converted to like age unrestricted housing. It has to stay as independent senior housing. In terms of the comp plan, the future land use map considers this area to be commercial. While that's not quite what we're proposing, it would provide a transition between commercial uses to the east and the residential neighborhoods to the west, kind of a step down in intensity. It also aligns with two comprehensive plan goals: local identity goal 2, to promote the availability of housing options to meet diverse needs and preferences of Savoy residents, and resilient infrastructure goal 1, objective A, essentially to encourage infill development. And on the note of that first goal, when I presented the existing conditions report for the comprehensive plan update, I did flag that a pretty high proportion of senior renters are housing cost burdened. That means that they spend more than 30% of their monthly income on things like rents, utilities, and other similar housing related expenses. That proportion has gone down seemingly since 2010, but it's still pretty substantial proportion. So what would be enabled from this rezoning, and the intention for this rezoning, would definitely go toward meeting a demonstrated need within the community. And then lastly, the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed the rezoning against the LaSalle standards, which are a balancing test designed to evaluate the suitability of a zoning map amendment. Those are the standards. The findings that the Planning and Zoning Commission adopted are in the draft resolution, I believe, in your packet. The applicant provided testimony at the public hearing. There was one resident who spoke to ask questions, but didn't specifically speak in favor of or against the proposal. And ultimately, the commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the zoning map amendment without any special conditions or stipulations. That's all I have. Happy to take questions.
Any questions, Heather?
Okay, first, because we're going to cover a significant amount of what is now open ground with impervious materials.
Right.
And there is the pond next to the municipal building, but there's not that much space in the pond. My first question is stormwater. Where are we meeting our stormwater need?
Roland, you wanted to take that?
The pond was actually designed with an entire commercial development and the municipal expansion, so it's already accounted for.
Okay, and then the second is, the last time we examined a plan for that area, the condominium or the neighborhood right next to it was very concerned about a buffer space.
Right.
And they had a tree line, which does not look like that is part of their property, and a gravel road, which allowed sufficient emergency access and exit from that street. I have been told by the fire department there is a place for a 3-way turn there. But does this plan include some sort of buffer space between these two living arrangements?
Yeah, so the UDO requires buffers between different intensities of use. So there is a buffer that will be required for the two properties.
Thank you.
Would that include, so a buffer would all include screening, visual screening?
Yes, yeah, so there's, the UDO included different, I guess, levels of intensity of screening depending on how different the two uses are.
Okay, and you said that this would have to be a senior, but is there a density, you went through the different densities, so
right.
Would it be set on density or could that change? Could the density change within certain parameters?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there isn't a set density for independent senior housing or for senior housing, dependent senior housing. The UDO doesn't define how many units are of that type of use are permitted in each zoning district.
I think so, so when the time comes though, we'll look at it.
If part of the UDO was, if a site plan meets the standards of the UDO, it's approved administratively, but if anything involves a public hearing, it would come back in front of, the Planning and Zoning Commission as well as the board.
I have one more follow-up question. You visually showed 3 different applications of senior, multi-housing. One being looking more like a house, having that appearance, one looking more like an industrial building or parking building. What is the appearance of this plan?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a consideration of the rezoning, but it is, I haven't seen an elevation, like from the exterior, it is, contemplated to be 3 stories.
3 stories, that's what I saw. And
Yeah.
then in the parking area, will there be some green spaces in the parking area, or is it just completely covered
That's,
parking?
yeah, landscaping within the parking lot is required by the UDO.
Any other questions? Okay, poll the board and see if, like this to be part of the consent agenda next week. Anybody have an objection to that? Dennis?
If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer anything too. So I just let, Caitlin knows it so well, and, but I'm happy to answer it. It's gonna be, if we have your blessing, and we get the financing for it, it'll be 50 units. And just know that in addition to, the zoning code for independent seniors, we will also record, our lenders, investors will require a land use restriction that will maintain that it is independent seniors. It's not going to change to something else. This is what it is.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you ever do skilled care?
Pardon? I know, what a fortuitous time. Yeah, we're on the other end of the spectrum. So this is seniors, but
Yes.
independent, and there's a huge need for that as well.
All right, so we'll include this as part of the consent agenda. As a reminder, any trustee can pull any item out of the consent agenda if you change your mind, so. Okay, we'll move on to our next item, which is C, study session item 2026-05, a resolution approving the use of state motor fuel tax funds for calendar year 2026. So I'll turn this over to Roland, I assume. I'm guessing this is pretty straightforward.
I will try to be brief in my comments, because I know the hour is late. You approved a resolution back in December. This just follows IDAT standard process. This is the follow-up resolution that we do every year. It approves an additional $286,000 of state IDOT MFT funds. Most of the work is designated to occur on East Tamaris, where we did half the road last year, so we're coming back to do the other half. There'll be some miscellaneous patching in other locations, so we recommend approval of this item.
Okay, any questions? And is everybody okay with this being included as part of the consent agenda? Okay, will be added to the consent agenda for next week, and we'll move on to D, study session item 2026-06, a resolution approving a compliance support services contract with Farnsworth Group in an amount not to exceed $39,700. And that's Roland again?
Yep. In August of last year, the state released an updated statewide stormwater permit mandating local agencies to implement numerous best management practices. This results in us having to turn in a notice of intent document to the state. It was included in your packet as some 20 pages of best management practices that we had to include, a lot of new ones, and we need some outside assistance to help us implement some of these and to track them, especially in this first year. We anticipate that this expense will probably either be minimized or go away as we move on in time.
How in the world did we get by all these years without having to do this? I mean, and we managed. But anyway, any questions from Roland? Okay, and is everybody okay if we include this as part of the consent agenda? All right, sounds good. We'll move on to E, study session item 2026-07, a resolution approving a sewer television contract with Telescan Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $50,000. Roland.
And this is another annual contract that we do. We clean our own sewers, but we bring in a third party to televise them. They have specialized equipment. They also do condition ratings based on industry standards. And we try to do about 1/5 of the system each year. So with contingency, we're seeking approval of $50,000 for this item.
Is there any questions? Everybody okay with putting this as part of the consent agenda? See a bunch of yeses. I guess people are getting tired. I'm not even asking anyone, I'm just saying.
They're easy items.
Yeah, it is. We'll move on to F, study session 2026-08, a resolution approving a demolition contract with Steve's Trucking Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $120,000. Roland.
This project will demolish all the remaining buildings of the downtown development site with the exception of the metal-sided building, which is in decent condition. It will be used for public works cold storage and potentially for a field office for the developer. Eventually, that building will be demolished also. The architect's preliminary estimate was about $280,000. As President Brown mentioned, Steve's Trucking. Doing business as demolition specialists. They've been around a long time. They started many years ago as Steve's Trucking. They just never changed their name. They focus on demolition. They're out of Decatur. The low bid was $98,651. We think the extra work we put in with the architect and the environmental assessment up front helped facilitate that low bid. So with contingency, because sometimes there's some unknowns with demolition, you don't know until you get into it, we're seeking approval of $120,000 for this project.
Any questions? Okay, is everybody okay with including this as part of the consent agenda? All right, we'll move on to, we're getting close. G, study session item 2609, a resolution approving an agreement with the Illinois Commerce Commission to release funding for the Curtis Road project. Roland.
Thank you. This is one of several funding agreements that we will need to access outside funding for the project. While these agencies pledge funding, it is required for these agreements to be put into place and executed in order to actually access the funds to be reimbursed. This initial agreement was initiated by the Illinois Commerce Commission and it's between the ICC, IDOT, and the village. After, assumedly this is approved, IDOT will follow up with their own funding agreement. The bureaucracy wheel just keeps turning, but we have to, hit these hoops and jump through these hoops to get the money. This agreement unlocks about $2.5 million in ICC funds for engineering, right-of-way acquisition, and utility location for the project. As we get closer to construction, we will come back with another ICC funding agreement to release the remaining $15.5 million of ICC funds. So we look at this as a good thing. We're getting money that was pledged to the project. We recommend that you approve this agreement for this initial distribution.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none, is everybody okay with including this part of the consent agenda? All right, I'm seeing a bunch of yeses, so that will be included. Last study session item is under H, is study session item 2026-10, a resolution confirming appointments to the board and Fire and Police Commission. That will be a reappointment of the judge and also a new appointment when a person had to step down, one of our members, so appointment of Liz Fabric to replace that person. Are there any questions? We put a little bio of Liz at everybody's desk, and everybody should be familiar with the Judge Ford, so he's done an outstanding job as the chairperson of that commission, so.
I can speak first-handedly.
Yes, Joan is a member of that when we first started.
Yeah.
He got back on the board. So any questions?
Only that he's got to it's gotta be separated out, it seems to me, in order for him to vote.
I can
True,
all
true,
things
we're gonna have to have that as part of the agenda items.
I'll make the
Which is
meeting
easy
take
enough.
longer, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. We'll take a minute instead of 30 seconds. Anyway, what's that?
We can do two resolutions for each one, so that we just.
Yeah, we'll just
That's fine.
end up
Good
making
idea.
two different. So, all right,
You can put Jeff's in with the,
good consent
in the
agenda,
consent agenda,
and then
and then Liz has to be
and then
separate,
Liz
so that,
will do a separate. So,
I don't,
all right. Yeah, your wife would be mad at you if you didn't vote for her. That
I
could,
told her I'm
that
not
could
voting
cause
for it.
discourse.
I already told her I'm not voting for her.
Anyway, we'll move on to new business. Any new business? I know it's been a long meeting, so. What's that? We'll move on to Board of Trustees remarks. Larry?
I look very much forward to the study session, which hopefully will come in a timely manner so we can continue to talk about the budget regarding farmers market, special events. And I also think we might look at possibly block party grants, and additionally the tree program that went away apparently.
Not aware of any.
Grants for the 50%.
Did that go over here?
No.
No, it's through Public Works.
It's
Okay,
not on
I
a
didn't
different
I didn't see it.
Okay.
Which tree program are you, the reimbursement if they plant?
Reimbursement for
yeah.
planting.
It's included in, well, there's the one if you plant them in the easement,
Yes.
that reimbursement,
That's the one.
that is still up to $100, that is still, and it's part of the arboriculture line.
Scratch that.
Okay.
All is good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, any other trustee comments? Seeing none, seeing no other business, I will declare us adjourned. Thank you.
Rolling.
Yeah, everybody's got.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Why you must highlight
All right, let's go, we're gonna go through these, go quick, roll it, run.
She must just be the